am here with Harley Jay, who's playing Sean and part of the plan. Harley, tell me about your role as Sean.
I play Sean O'Connor, who is basically given up for adoption at the top of the show, and through the course of his life he ends up joining the army and going to Vietnam and meeting some people in Vietnam, and finally the war ends, and when he gets back to the States, it goes into one of those, like, I spent the last however many years in Vietnam, and they take 8 weeks plus to train you to get ready for war, but they don't train you to get ready to come home. And the things that soldiers deal with coming home after an experience like that, it's kind of crazy. And through the whole process of that, like, get married and stuff happens with the marriage and meet new people, and it's a pretty wild little ride, which is kind of a fun reason to play a part.
Okay, so how did you get involved with this?
I've been in this show for 5 years or something like that.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
So I lived in LA for a little while, and when I was in LA, I met the writers, Karen and Kate, through a friend of a friend, and they called and said, "You want to be in the show?" And I said, "Yeah, I would love to. Can I read it?" And they said, "Yeah, totally." And they handed me a script, and they said, "Oh, by the way, we're using Dan Fogelberg's music." And I said, "Cool, don't need to read it. I'm in." Love Dan Fogelberg, have since I was a little kid. And yeah, and ever since then, I've done, gosh, 5, 6, 7 different readings, and now we're finally in Nashville, which is amazing. Yeah. It's a perfect spot to do this.
So Dan Fogelberg is someone who a younger generation's not going to be familiar with.
Yeah.
Why should millennials listen to Dan Fogelberg?
Ooh, good question. So, Dan Fogelberg is the iPhone of music.
Okay.
What I mean is, nobody knew that they needed an iPhone with the internet, and they could get any game they wanted, any app to do anything they wanted at any time. They just push a button. Dan Fogelberg's the exact same thing. Didn't know you needed Dan Fogelberg until you had him in your hand, and you're like, holy crap, I've been missing out on this my entire life. Dude's one of the best poets I've ever heard. His music is brilliant. Not only is it really pretty and really well put together, but it's still current. The things that he's talking about, the melodies that he's using and everything are still current years and years and years later. The dude is like a fine wine. He ages better. He gets better with age. And I think maybe not all popular music or something like that, but people that are growing up in this day and age, I don't know if they've experienced something that never gets old, that gets better with age. He's one of them.
Okay. What's your favorite Dan Fogelberg song?
Oh my gosh. I love Phoenix. I love Hard to Say. There's a song that isn't in the show called Heart Hotels. It's really, really great. It's another one of my favorites. When I was a kid, I remember my parents would send me to my grandpa's house every summer, and they would go to Hawaii, and I would hang out with grandpa for like 3 months. My grandpa he's passed away. He had thousands and thousands and thousands of motorcycles, so my grandpa taught me how to build motorcycles while listening to Dan Fogelberg and Roy Orbison and Marty Robbins and Eddie Arnold and that kind of thing. Dan Fogelberg is the jam.
Yeah.
I mean, he's amazing. But yes, check out those 2 or 3 songs I mentioned. You'll be hooked right away.
Perfect. And you're from LA too?
I live in New York now.
New York?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And how much are you loving Nashville?
I love every time I come here. This is my 4th or 5th time. Every time I come here, my wife and I are always saying, maybe we should think about living here. I think when we leave New York, we'll end up here. This is a pretty great spot.
Yeah, it's a great town.
It's amazing.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. I've had a blast talking to you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.
I've enjoyed it.
One last smile. Wow.